want to introduce Ed Mascharka.
Good evening. I'm proud to be here. I enjoy steelhead fishing. I enjoy all kinds of fishing. I have a very active life in fishing at night. But I, first and foremost, have taken more to steelhead lately. And I guess that's just growing up and getting older kind of thing, because we all enjoy it a lot more. Okay. How's that? Much better? Okay. The couple of things that I will go over today, and I've brought in a lot of things with me, but there's some, I'll just highlight the things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the steelhead program, the current state of the fisheries, as Chuck Murray explains it for 2016, 2015. It's kind of preliminary for him for his 2016 meeting with the Lake Erie Commission, which will be in March. There's several people that serve on that commission with him. They're all local: Jerry Scripsack from Sons, Pete Alex, and I do not remember the other person, but I apologize. So our associations and our local interests are well represented on the Lake Erie Advisory Council for that. Can you hear that?
I'm on that commission as well.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I couldn't remember the other one, and now I do. But the Great Lakes preliminary report from Chuck, I'll leave here. I've just put some how our new fish and boat app, and I'm going to talk about the new fishing license button and the Keystone Select program, if you're not aware of what our new launch of the Keystone Select program with our large brood trout program is. So without that, I'll start on the next slide here. Resource first, that's our mission. Our officers definitely go with that mission statement every day. I do want to applaud these guys. They're very avid in the field. They're very diligent. They do a great job. I'm sure that they've had their tumultuous times with some of the people out there, not today, but out in the field. There are a lot of things that they work on, and it's just pleasing to me to know that with the small contingent that we have of law enforcement currently, to where our normal complement is, that bringing on another 18 officers and trying to look at our budgets, which are about 52 million a year, all paid for by your sportsman's license dollars and voting registration fees, that we'll be able to bring those new 18 guys on and fill our complement in law enforcement back up to a more reasonable level than where we're at today. This next slide is going to give me the Keystone Select program. That's our new, I want to talk about the current state of Senate Bill 601, which is the use of the Lake Erie stamp money. I'm going to talk a little bit about the fish Shannon Creek. There's a 2.67 mile area. The way we're going to run this program is we stock a large over 15 to 20 some inch trout program, and those trout are usually mixed in on the truck transfers as they were done over the course of the stocking programs through March and April. Now what we're going to do is, if we had 100% of those fish moved all over the state into specific trucks that were just thrown in at will, we're going to take up just 15% of those. We're going to pull those 15% out, and we're going to use them to stock these extended areas of these creeks with only those big brood trout, and or in the halo areas, so that they're delayed harvest artificial lure only, catch and release. So until June, there'll be no harvest of those big trout. So those trout will be in those streams, stocked in those streams. They'll be stocked at, and I don't remember exactly, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 15 or 16 for every 1,000 lineal feet. So it's a pretty heavy stocking of these bigger trout in there. And they'll be available. There's 8 streams across the whole state. I've only put 3 in that are not ultimately real close, but they're close enough for us to get to. So you'll be able to fish a trophy trout water like we do down at Pine Creek with that DeHalo program down there. That's stocked by an outside sportsman's club, and they put those in generally 2 or 3 times a year, and that's led to a big economic boom in that area. And so our whole idea there is to go ahead and put these larger trout, 15% of them, into these other creeks across the state and build our own trophy trout programs across the Keystone Select water. If there's any questions on that, there are 8 of them. Like I said, they're all on the website. Just type in Keystone Select and they'll pull up on the search. And I will say something about our website while I'm here. Our website's got a lot on it. I know it can be cumbersome, but there's a search bar up at the top right of that screen. If you have any recognition of what you're looking for and you type it in, that whole page down the right side will fill with all kinds of information that's good. And all you need to do is click on those little links and you can back up one at a time if it's not what you're looking for. I've been very able to find everything that I look for. You know, specifically, I just typed in the word Keystone, and it instantly brought up a news release on Keystone Select Waters. Single page stuff, comes up real easy to find. We are reviewing our website. We're going to talk about changes. That's back to the idea of money and resources and other things, so we'll get into that a little later. But we are going to revamp our website and work on some other stuff. I'll talk about our state of our fishery and our steelhead trout program. We have just completed, I think, it's going to be a while. I would think probably about 26 years, 28 years of steelhead trout program. The steelhead stocking program, so you know, has just reached one of its milestones. We've supported it exclusively through hatchery production. The eggs are brought in from feral broodstock originally for wild fish. It is a put and grow and take management program, but for the 12th year in a row, and over 1 million steelhead were stocked annually. 90% of those are stocked from our hatcheries, so you know. 92 trucks run between March and May 4th to stock all of our smolts. And the Sportsman's Co-op stock another 74,000 smolts. That would be only about 10% of that. As you know, we're the largest state for production and stocking of steelhead in the Lake Erie. We outrank everybody in that realm. Our smolts were the largest they've been in 15 years, 185 millimeters. Doesn't seem very big, but it is the largest that we've had recently. We've been trying to increase them, but we always deal with our effluents and our plant productions and our capacity to carry those fish in those ponds. So that's one of our big things, but to get to our largest ever is a pretty good thing. That means we're still stocking 1 million, we're making them bigger, and we're trying to keep making them bigger so we can put them in. The angler survey that Chuck is going to release shows a steelhead catch rate of about 0.36 steelhead per hour, which is, ours is the highest in all the Great Lakes. It's higher than any other area, the Lake Ontario area or any of the other lakes. Let's see what I got on the next slide. The stocking program. This is where we stock. We're at 1,097,000 generally, or 1 million fish. So we're running 56% of the total stockings on Lake Erie. Doesn't mean they all return to the Pennsylvania area in our streams, but they are stocked. 56% of our steelhead are stocked into Pennsylvania waters when they're put out. I'm going to talk about the brown trout program too, so don't worry. I'm not stuck on steelhead right now. The PFBC makes a considerable investment in steelhead. We talk about 98% of the steel angling takes place in the streams. That's one of the big reasons for our Lake Erie Stamp program. It is the biggest access and habitat improvement program across the nation. There's been all kinds of talk back and forth about dissolving it over the last 15 years. We are in a perpetual Lake Erie Stamp program, meaning that the legislature 3 years ago agreed to not put it into a sunshine law, which was every 5 years it had to go back to the legislature for renewal. It is now perpetual until the legislature decides to repeal it. So the Lake Erie Stamp will continue. There is no cost increase for the fishing license increase on the Lake Erie Stamp. It will remain the same. We're not increasing that cost. There is a subtle change to the seniors that now have to buy a senior license after 2015, that they need to buy their Lake Erie Stamp to fish Lake Erie waters. Whereas the seniors before 2015 that were grandfathered in didn't have to have their stamps. Their stamps were bought once with their license and continued in perpetuity. The current 2015-2016 senior license holders must buy a Lake Erie or trout stamp or a combo stamp every year. Okay? The 80% of the steelhead today are caught and released. Been a lot. What, was I wrong?
Erie stamp's good once it's done. It's trout stamps every year.
Trout stamp every year. You sure? Okay.
Not my check.
Okay. They're always right. They only enforce it. I just vote to approve it. I don't remember. I honestly didn't think that, but that's okay. Thanks for changing that. So, did you hear that? The Lake Erie Stamp is bought once with your senior license, correct, Matt? And the trout stamp is the only one that's bought every year. There's been a lot of talk about our trout stamp. Trout stamp raising trout is 30-some% of our $51 million budget. That's our hatcheries, our fish cultures, our trucks, our fuel, everything else. It pushes a real burden on Fish and Boats program, but as you know, that put and take trout fishery for April sells our licenses, and we know that. It is a heavy job, a heavy load to take care of. There's been talk about all kinds of things, and the biggest thing that most people have felt, and even from TU and all kinds of other groups, is that we should be raising the trout stamp to try to cover more costs of the hatchery programs. By that I mean, when you buy a trout stamp for $8, which is $9.70 at your issuing agent with the processing fees, you add those all up by the number of trout stamps we sell, it doesn't even come to 30-40% of our total hatchery expense. So what we're talking about would be a raising of the trout stamp by 300 or 400%, which would take it to $24 or $32. That can't be done. So we've looked at a program, and we'll talk about fish license increases that will bring our budgets back up to and aid us in where we need to be. But I'll go back to the steelhead fishery right now. 81% of our stream anglers fishing for steelhead were from out of town. I don't know, Carl, that's a pretty big number. I see a lot of guys on streams that are from Pennsylvania and from our area. I see a lot of out-of-towners too. I see a lot of Pennsylvania out-of-town people is what I'm talking about. I believe that statement means that they're not from the Erie County area, okay? The Pennsylvania Steelhead Program generates millions of dollars. Just so you know, fishing in general and fishing licenses and sales and the economic boom of what most of the resource management results tell us about fishing and its generation, that it's about a $2.5 billion industry in Pennsylvania. That means that not only in your licenses, but in your fishing, your fuel, your travels, your waders, your tackle, everything, we're talking about a $2.5 billion industry for Pennsylvania in fishing alone. Hunting comes along even greater than that. As you look at the decreasing public access has probably been our greatest threat, but the Lake Erie Stamp Program has helped that. We do have several properties or a couple of pieces that are landlocked, but we bought them knowing that they were available and we've got to make access to them. But there are very few of those properties. Right now in June or January, We'll be approving 4 more parcel purchases. I'll give you a tidbit on one of them. One of them is in Elk Creek off Rick Road. Another one is off the 79 Corridor Exchange at McCain. And then a couple of other ones are on other properties that we've been looking at over time. There are some pieces of property now coming up for access purchase on Walnut Creek up by Asbury Park. There's a few other pieces of parcels off 38th and that coming up. We look at those diligently. Scott Bollinger and our property management people, Mark Mitchell, look at those all the time, and they're very active in it. And then to be on the street, on boots on the ground, our Erie Access program uses Dave Skelly and Sea Grant, which is part of Penn State Cooperative Program, and they run out of the Tom Ridge Center, and they're on a consultant basis with us, so they're paid a stipend for every deal and all their hours billable back to us. It's not a large contract. It's less than $30,000-$40,000 a year, but it gives us the boots on the ground. It gives us the guys to work with appraisers, to work with realtors, to work with the property owners, to generate the documents, to post the documents, make sure that they're worked through the right legal channels in the local county to be posted and deeded. So that's kind of what Dave Skelly and Sea Grant do for us, but that's basically our property management guy and our Lake Erie Access organizer in Harrisburg, plus Dave Skelly and Erie are our 3 managers for that Lake Erie Access program. Habitat I will go over. We are going to make a push for habitat. I was pretty adamant about that with our staff. Let's talk about our brown trout initiative. Our brown trout are now averaging, from Chuck, around 22 inches on a catch basis. Our largest that was caught in 2015 was 32 inches, 16 pounds. That's a nice trout. We currently are developing our own egg source. All of our eggs for our brown trout program have been coming as IPN certified disease-free trout eggs from the New York State. And our complement of biologists in Fairview and Linesville are working to try to take from our different pickups and trout pickups or steelhead pickups at the Livonia Road area. They want to pick up their brood stock from there now if they can find the browns with a lot of eggs and start to work on their own disease-free egg program so that we won't have to, even though New York doesn't charge us for those eggs, we have a transportation of those eggs, we have a putting them into the cylinders issue and then a biosecurity issue, but we lose a general percentage. When I say we bring in about 100,000 eggs, we lose probably about 25,000 of them because our average raising of brown trout every year is around 70 to 75,000. So we're losing about 25% of that egg stock. Whereas if we find our own egg source in the streams here and get it immediately into cylinders, we can reduce that death or lifespan, or increase the lifespan. We have fin clipped those trout. Those come out of either 3CU with Bobby Hetz or they come out of the Wesleyville Conservation Hatchery. Those fin clips show that the fall stock return around 12-month-old was only about half of what we were putting in the spring. Meaning when they were brought up to about 18 months old, those brown trout, before they were stocked, by letting Bobby and Wesleyville hold them until spring, because we stock fall and spring, we found that almost 100% increase, or basically if you had 50%, you went to 100% or half of that. The fin clip trout showed that about all the catches were probably more so in that 18-month range than that 12-month range, 100% more. Our sportsmen's cooperative nurseries play the most important role in our brown trout by raising all of them to stocking size. Currently 69,328 for 2015, and we stocked 53,528 out of 3CU and 15,800 out of the Wesleyville Conservation. Any questions on the brown trout program? Yeah, go ahead.
You guys still have a IPN problem down in Corey with the brown trout?
We'll always have an IPN problem in Corey in that it's a 3-year moratorium on disease once you find it in the hatchery, so you have to be quarantined for 3 years. It can be checked every year, but there's a 3-year process to get off that quarantine list. I believe Corey is in their 3rd year, but they're still finding evidence of IPN every year when they do their checks. Not in the fish, but in the waters in the hatchery. So biosecurity is a paramount thing for us anymore with all this stuff. And even to the point of we, from Chuck Murray and the guys, as you know, sit on the Great Lakes Commission, they gave us a lot of money 2 years ago, about $150,000 to build our biosecurity programs into our co-ops too. But yes, Marty, the Corey hatchery has had IPN. It has been eradicated and cleaned, and then it's come back. So I don't know the status of it today, but it has gone back and forth, and been elevated at certain points.
Okay, the reason why I asked that, what are you going to do, if that persists at Corey, what are you going to do with the brown trout that you are rearing?
Well, we've moved most of them, and we're trying to stock 75,000 every year. And those are mostly being raised, as you can see from the 3CU. So we've transferred all those fish out of Corey. We no longer raise them at Corey. We do develop some of the eggs at Corey in the cylinders, but we push a lot of that over to Bobby to raise. Okay? The next slide, I believe, is going to take us into the Erie Access Improvement Program. Currently, we have 16 miles of streams protected. That means that it's public access, although, as I said, there's one property that I know in particular that has a little bit of a landlocked capability to it, but it's not a large piece, but it's a nice fishing piece. But we work on those every day. So in the last 15 years plus, we've increased 16 miles of access, and we currently have about a $2.6 million balance in the Lake Erie Stamp Fund. Brings me to my other point. Senate Bill 604 by Sean Wiley was approved and pushed through the Senate unanimously, which does nothing more than take the Lake Erie Stamp and move it from access habitat and adds a 3rd wave to it, which adds the ability to support any or pay for anything that supports public fishing. By that we mean there can be people that are paying for the stamp, boaters, anglers on boats that don't fish streams, bucket fishermen that walk down and just fish off the piers, and there's people that pay for the Lake Erie Stamp that aren't seeing any return on their dollar. So to be fair to those people, we need to open another angle to be able to do things. Although we've built fishing piers, we've built access for anglers, and we've built boat access, and we're allowed to do any type of access. They haven't seen the financial equality between what we paid for land and habitat to what we paid for what they already put in. Don't get me wrong though, we track how many of those people buy their licenses at what time of the year and whether they're steelhead fishing or angling, but a big push of our anglers also buys for the boating season for the summer. I mean, on a given day out there charter boating, you can see 300-400 boats on the east and 300-400 boats on the west. That's a lot of fishermen buying a lot of stamps. So at that point, what I'm saying is we're not going to decrease our willingness to go out and buy land. We're not going to decrease our habitat work, which almost has been non-existent, but it will change because I'm working on that. And to be able to spend some of that money on things that boaters want and bucket anglers might want, other than just access to water or access to fish or access to launch a boat. We need to give that capability to use that for other things. We have a Lake Erie Advisory Council. Marty sits on it. We have that council to push all of our stuff through or to look at our priority projects. If it's not property, we look at the idea, I think these are echoing back and forth. I think we use the Lake Erie Advisory Council and we're waiting for Senate Bill 604 to open up so that at this point we can push to the Lake Erie Advisory Council other ideas besides property and habitat. And I'm currently working on a habitat plan, which I'll talk about tonight, which will be sometime into 2016. We've done extreme walkthroughs with Tom Edwards and myself and all of the habitat people and Leroy Young from Fisheries. We walked all of the stream mouths up to about 5 or 20 mile in certain locations, looking at constrictions and where fish passage has been at its worst, going forward from east to west. We've identified those, but we haven't figured out how to fix them. And as you know, we're in shale substrate, and how to fix them isn't easy. So we'll talk about that a little bit in habitat, but I've got a big plan for how I want to do that. Any questions on the Lake Erie stamp and Senate Bill 604? It has already passed the Senate unanimously. It is in the House. It's sitting in committee, as they always do. A bill goes to committee first. The committee votes it out of the committee to the floor. It should pass the House. Talk to all the House leaders and talk to the different people in the House, and that should pass the House, and then it has to go over to the governor's desk for signing. But that's our anticipation by sometime in 2016 to have that amendment just made to the Lake Erie stamp bill.
You said that 90% of steelhead fishing is put on streams, it's not working against that.
But the Lake Erie stamp money was built originally for access and habitat, okay? But what the question is to fish any waters, including Lake Erie, not just streams, but the bay and Lake Erie waters, you have to have a Lake Erie stamp. What if you don't steal that fish? You still have to buy the Lake Erie stamp. If you don't fish a stream ever in your life, you only fish for 3-4 months out of the summer on a boat, you're paying that $9.70. Oh, it's never about the money. It's about the equality between what they're paying for and what they're getting. But the money's not the issue. The issue is they have paid the money in, and the question is, what can we give them back in return? And we can't give them, other than dock access, we can't do a lot for them. We're not going to build more marinas on Lake Erie. We can improve things. We can improve public launches and things like that, but we can't add more boat installs. We can't make it cheaper for guys to put their boat in the water. So at this point, the Lake Erie stamp has, as they see it, and we were at the charter boat meeting on Saturday, there's all kinds of talk from those guys. They want it abolished just like Andy wanted it abolished. And what I say by that is there are people that don't see the return of what they're paying for $9.70 has no access or no gain for them. So that's the biggest step. There you go. I mean, that's been the whole discussion with the trout stamp. That this put and take fishery really should have its own capability to do that. And in game, they're talking about a pheasant stamp. I mean, and we're talking about raising trout stamps. Sure, you could put a steelhead stamp on. Sure, you could do all that. But it takes legislation to do that. That's not up to us as commissioners. It's up to the legislature. And the legislature doesn't like creating taxes and fees. It doesn't get them elected. Being truthful, that's what it is. It doesn't get them elected. And constituents will complain, and I've heard comments from people in the legislature. After 6 or 7 phone calls on the same issue, it's now become their topic. They don't look for 1 phone call, they look for 6 to 7 phone calls. When that becomes a topic to them, then they'll get involved. So my point is, you're right, we can create stamps for different things. But we already have a very beneficial stamp. It has a $2.6 million balance after taking in over almost $6 million in 15 years. And we generate $600,000 to $700,000 additionally into that stamp every year. We're talking about the charter boat guys want fish cleaning stations at Walnut and Northeast. Those don't cost but $10,000 or $20,000 to put in. We're not talking about pilfering this account. We're talking about keeping the access program there, keeping the habitat program there, and my plan for habitat is to spend some pretty significant hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on our stream access right now, because we haven't really done that. And then I want to take and just be able to pay off and give more money to the other people that need things. There's some plans on the Port Authority right now for some increases. I don't know if anybody's fished off the front end of the old Border Patrol building, which is now the Port Authority's office. But that whole front walkway there has been really bad to fish off of because there's a lot of riprap out to the water and you gotta climb on it to get there. They're talking about doing sidewalks and all that kind of stuff there, and we're talking about cantilever walkways to fish off of over top of the rocks out there. So those are things, those are access. I can pay for those out of the stamp now. So there are things I can pay for, but I'm limited. I can't pay for things out of the stamp, or we can't pay for things out of the stamp, other than access to water or habitat. And that's it. Any other questions on the stamp? I hope I answered that. I didn't mean to be confrontational, but what I'm saying is there's just people, other people, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of people that also buy a stamp that don't fish the streams. So there is a need to give them some right. Okay? The habitat improvement program. This is just getting started. I toured in the fall with Tom Edwards and, as I said, Leroy Young and 4 or 5 habitat people, and we walked around from Elk, Walnut, Conneaut Creek, we walked Cascade, we walked 4 mile, 6 mile, 8 mile, 12 mile, 16 and 20. We looked at all the steelhead progressions that basically were constrictions of where the steelhead couldn't make passage in low water conditions or even moderate water conditions, and how we would access those fish further up the stream. We stock them further up the stream, but we don't see the smolts, we don't see the steelhead return because of either waterfalls or areas of no pools in front of waterfalls and things like that. As you know, with a shale substrate and with the ice and weather that we get during the winter months, shale will break off, things will change, and we can grind out channels and do things, and they'll stay for 3 years, 5 years, maybe 10 years if you're lucky. But as the ice and stuff forms over those and it cracks the shale up, those channels can all change. So we're going to take and prioritize or identify the points of serious concern. I gave Carl a list of all those that we have now. The reason I'm passing that around to agencies like you guys and Carl, people that fish it, is because we walked certain areas. Some of you may not see that as a concern that fish those areas, but you might see something upstream or downstream from that that was a more, what I call, difficult concern. So we want to be sure that we're identifying the right concerns in our habitat plan for 2016. So we're drawing up plans, the things that might need immediate attention. Actually, one of them just came up. I was at Moorheadville Road, and PennDOT redid that bridge. Took Shivers Construction 2 years to complete that bridge during the summer months. They had extensions into September to try to complete it before steelhead run. And when they built the bridge, they built it with a sloping platform underneath the bridge. But the problem is, based on the engineering designs and the DEP permit, the exit to the pool of the bottom of the concrete under the bridge, which is the raceway under the bridge, has to be at water level. Well, they're about 6 inches high. So what do? You got a big problem. They build it not even to the permit, and PennDOT approved it and paid for it, which makes no sense. So now we have to go back to PennDOT and back to them and see if Shivers or someone can cut some type of a V channel in there and bring that water down so that it exits at low water level. It really shouldn't be that way. We have a lot of other bridges that are 100 times worse, but we're talking about a brand new construction that was done in 2 years, and it wasn't even done to code or done to the DEP permit. So we have a lot of things like that that we're looking at. There are the tubes at Elk Creek. As you know, that's all degraded pretty bad. There's the one tube that only picks up water in the high water. There's the low water side that always has water coming through. That cascades off, and that falls off probably, that maybe 15, 18 inches at some points. So we've thought about talking to Conrail and CCX to see if some kind of channels or gangways up maybe 8 or 10 feet from the front of it could be cut into those. So those are the kind of things. They're not easy things to do. They're not easy things to get approved. We can't get CCX or the Rick Conrail to prove that. CCX owns most of the railroads. It's very difficult. We'll go through days and hours and weeks of discussion and talking and calling them and trying to even get them to respond. Then once we get the railroad to respond, getting the right person to give us the right, opinion on what could be done or what might not be done. But then you have to look at the age and the construction of the bridge and everything that's there, and then how much can we do to it without degrading it anymore, and that's what they worry about. So there's things like that we got to deal with. But back on after we drop the plans for immediate attention, we'll review those ideas and concerns that we came up with, and we're going to set some objectives, and we're going to start to research how to fix these things properly. Habitat hasn't done a lot of work up here other than the fish passage at 4 Mile and the Alaskan ladder. So other than that, the last improvements that were done, I don't know, Jim or you guys, did you tell me when those last improvements at Walnut were done with the logs and all that stuff down at the lower end? 10 years ago?
Right.
15?
Yeah, I've been here 13, and it's probably 10 years.
Yeah.
So we've been within that.
That's probably the last major type of ever habitat work that was ever done on any of our streams in Erie County. And we have money, $2.5 million still sitting there to use. So there's time to do that. It just needs research and development on how to do it. And then we can formalize a spring plan and try to put it on our calendar. Our biggest problem was habitat's down to 1 crew, 1.5 crews. But I said, we have manpower. I can pay for manpower out of Lake Erie Stamp to run that habitat over. Give me a crew of 5 guys. I'll keep them busy in Erie County for 3 years. It's pretty simple. We need the bodies, we need the time. They're about a 2-year backlog on their construction items and things, and a lot of that comes from high hazard dams. Believe me, when you drain a dam, there's no better time than to go in and do construction work and do some type of fish, culture areas and baskets and bridges and other things underneath or hiding places for the fish. So they're pretty busy doing stuff on all our high hazard dams that are drained. But we'll formalize a spring plan. We'll try to put something together, and we're going to try to make a big impact on habitat going forward for the next year or 2. Well, there's a lot of things on Walnut that are on that list. Redoing and repinning some of those logs at the bottom to try to help with that, and then going up to that waterfall and looking first and foremost if we can do. Hey, even if we got to go in and if we can buy, there's some things that have changed in the industry. On a big excavator with a bucket, they've made a basically, it looks like a rock grinder unit that attaches on there. They're between $7,000 and $10,000 to purchase. They're about, I don't know, maybe $1,000 to rent. But we're looking at the idea of letting Lake Erie Stamp purchase one of those things where you can put it off a big excavator arm and go in there and grind a channel down through there like we did before. That's how we put the fish passage in at 4 Mile. That's how that was cut so nicely down through there on the Lawrence Park golf course property. So that unit, if we could get one of those, we could use that to do projects like at Walnut, over at 6 Mile, or at Moorheadville Road where we have a waterfall right above the bridge. So those kind of things we can look at. That way, if we owned the unit, we could do them every 4 or 5 years. We wouldn't have to come back, rent them, and build a whole project plan to do them. We have the actual grounder, or the rock grinder to do that. So that's some of the plans. Is equipment styles. Thinking what we can get, what we have to have. Yes?
Have you been considering any more fish ladders?
There are fish ladders that work. You have to have a good enough place to pin them and do them. Now below the dam at Lawrence Park is a pretty nice place to put it. And with the weir that you can open and close, you can protect it during, other times of the year. But on creek areas, I don't know how a ladder would work. I saw something pretty cool a year ago that I thought was interesting. It's called a fish cannon.
We did that big, that was a big buy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that might be another good purchase out of the Lake Erie Stamp Fund. Right now, I can't purchase anything like that out of the Lake Erie Stamp Fund. A fish cannon or a rock hound, I can't purchase. It has to be habitat work, which theoretically equipment is, but it's a little different. Fish cannon is a water-powered pump that pumps water from a lower spot up to, what was it, a couple thousand feet, if you want, and throws them through a flexible hose And you basically, what it does is it puts a pump down here and you have an inlet like this, and you just simply pick the steelhead out of this area, dump them in this hole, and they shoot as far as you want them, a couple thousand feet, right up through the tube, water powered, all the way up, and then drop them up above the constriction. Kind of a lazy man's way of moving steelhead, I guess, or a big skink. Yeah. Eats a bucket. Yeah, I hear you there. So let me keep going on a couple other things.
Ed, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Has that fish passageway actually really seriously worked on 4 miles?
No. Yes. Yes. We have done electrofishing this year in early 2015 from the 2014 passage. We have electrofished steelhead in 3 or 4 large areas, all the way up through into Wesleyville and behind some of the nursing home areas and that. And by that, I mean there were no fish in there 5 years ago. So up until this 2014 year, and one of the big walks that we did was from the waterfall above the passage all the way up through the G.E. Lawrence Park area, because there's a lot of crap in that creek. But there are some big pools and some things that exist there, and I know that above those pools, we were finding, I mean, not huge numbers of fish, don't get me wrong, but there are fish.
I live up by the pool.
Okay, well, that's a long way.
I walk by the pool every day.
You won't see them that far
I've
yet.
seen 3 fish.
And how many years?
Since they started. What is it, 6 years?
I mean, no, that
5 years?
yeah, it's about 4.5. It was built while I was commissioner. Actually, both were put in while I was commissioner, so it might only be 3.5 years. 4 years. But my question to you was, in the gorge, was there fish 4 or 5 years ago?
No.
Okay.
And the idea of that tip ladder is to get them in the gorge.
Okay, but there's a lot of constrictions below the gorge that gotta be worked on. That's my habitat program.
Rated GE.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's a lot of constrictions there. Yeah, it is.
That's why it's not working as well.
I don't disagree with you, but the ladder is passing fish, let's put it that way.
The 4-mile ladder, we can discuss that all night. That's a sore subject amongst a lot of people. The one I was referring to was Upper Crooked. You familiar with that one? It was
No.
put in by Gerard Township.
A passage was put in by them around something. I guess the guys would be,
That was, and a couple years ago, Gerard Township, I think it's East Springfield Road.
yeah, I know where that's at.
It's the one right before Gloucester. It's right after 90 when you're on Lexington there. They put a John Mungus tube in there, and in our habitat people went in there last year. Mark, 2 years ago.
Well, it was
2 years ago?
It was still in the works.
Yeah, I think last year or 2 years ago they finished up or something. They put some steps in there. We don't want to call it fish passage so that you can still fish it. We're trying to, you know what I mean? So we
Just
put
with an
something in
improvement
there.
area. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So because guys do get in there, there's some good fishing downstream. They're down to 90 and stuff. So it's just fish passage, so we don't end up.
Yeah, you're,
Yeah, terrace. It's a nice patio for the fish.
yeah, that's all. I mean, all you're doing is
So-
improving passage.
Yeah, we did do that. It's a lot more low key, low maintenance. That's what it is.
That was the reason why I was bringing up. It just appeared to be much more low maintenance. That's been the big issue before.
That's one of the big research things we have to do, is what is low maintenance and what are major priority areas. The waterfalls on 16 miles right before you hit the waste treatment plant, those 2 waterfalls have become substantial. I mean, one of them is as tall as me, 5-6 foot, and another one on the other side is about 3.5 foot, but on the low water side. So, even though you don't get much water over the 3.5 foot one, the 5 to 6 foot one always has water over it. But then we want to work on the ideas, we may not have to change the waterfall. We may need to increase the pool below the waterfall. Because the big pool is at the bottom of the next step, not at the waterfall. So those are the research things that we really have to go in and decide. Are we going to change the waterfall, which is a high maintenance, only a few year lasting, or do we change the pool below it and add a pool above it for resting? Okay? I'm going to talk real quick about these last few things. I don't even know the time, so I guess I should check that. I don't mean to keep you here late, and that wasn't my intent. But the fishing license increase increases the cost of a general license by 25%. It'll take us, the legislature, a while to get this through. We need it for several reasons. One is, as I told you, our 400 and I don't even know what our top end complement of total employees is. It's in the 430, 4 something range. We're down to about, or 4, I want to say even higher, 450. We're down to about 380 some employees, and for the last 5 years since I've been commissioner, Director Arway has worked within the means of the budget, which means that whatever we take in revenue, we spend no more out. We've had a positive cash flow from revenue every year for at least the last 5 years. We haven't had to use our reserves. But coming up in 2016, 2017, due to some legislative and governor issues over the last 15 years, our pension is broke or not being paid into by the state fund. So they're requiring all our agencies, us, DCNR, game, all kinds of public agencies, no matter what they are, they're all required to pay into the pension now instead of your general fund money. So we're having to put in the money to keep the pension solvent. In addition to that $6 million, we're being, and this is rightly so because I'm a businessman, that going forward, that the agency's healthcare cost increase for their employees. So for our 380 some employees, we've got to spend an extra $2.5–3 million this year for healthcare cost increases for the healthcare for the employees. Meaning, if they were paying, if the state was paying $500 and it goes to $600, we're paying that extra $100. So from now on, we have to pay that. That's $2.3 million. So we have about an $8–9 to $9 million deficit coming out of your $51 million with a boating and fishing license dollar revenue. That $9 million extra dollars is going to start coming out in 2016. We have a reserve that by the legislature and the Office of General Accounting has to stay at a certain dollar level, which is about $20 million. And the reason for that is our budget starts June 1 and it goes all the way to, or July 1, goes all the way to June 30th. Most of our revenue comes in between December's licenses and April's big buy for trout. So that big group of money doesn't come in until 6 to 8 months after we start our budget. So we have to meet payrolls, we have to pay for gas and oil, we have to pay our bills, utilities, all that. So that reserve has to stay at least $20 million. If we start spending $9 million today, within 3 years, we'll be at or have to go below our mandated $20 million reserve. So we know that it'll take a couple of years to get a fishing license increase through, it always does. And we've put a proposal out there for a 25% increase that has a step program that after year 2, 3, 4, 5, out to 6 years, will step your licenses up to about 45% increase, which means if you're paying around $22, $24 or $23 right now, you'll be up to about $30.40 by 2020. That's the max. But the original license will go up to about 25 or 24 in the first year. 25% on residents, 25% on non-residents, 25% on stamp, trout stamp, or 50% on trout stamp, and 50% increase on, or 100%, I'm sorry, increase on senior licenses. The senior license currently is at $50, it'll go to $100. That's our proposal. I proposed 75. I said do it at the 25% or 50% number. And actually TU, Pennsylvania Sports Fishing Association, and the Pennsylvania Federation of Sportsmen's Clubs, as well as Senator Brubaker, who sponsored the bill that's coming into the Senate now, all said take it to 100, and whatever it settles at, it'll settle it. Because it is a very volatile topic to raise seniors from 50 to 100. Believe me, I'm 8–10 years away from getting that myself, so I'm not expecting to pay less, I'm expecting to pay more. But currently, the only other option on the senior license would have been to index it off of age. But if you look at the reason and the rationale for that, we currently have 150,000 license owners that are seniors. with lifetime licenses. We have 800,000 licensed anglers. We used to have 1 million licensed anglers, 1,000,001, 1,000,002. So when you take that 150,000 and add it to the 800 and some thousand, you're almost at 1 million licensed anglers, but we can't keep counting them in our federal surplus or what we call a replenishment. Every year we sell a license, we get $5 from the feds out of your Pittman Robertson and Dingle Johnson bills. But basically, so when you buy a fishing pole and has a tax or an excise in it, that money comes back to us. We get about $5 for a fishing line. We can only count seniors for 3 years after they buy a senior. After that, it's no longer. So we have 150,000 people that we probably only cap 25,000 of those licenses every year that we're no longer getting paid for and no longer getting our federal subsidy. But they're still buying tackle, they're still buying boats, they're still buying all kinds of stuff and paying excise tax on sport fishing equipment. We're not getting a return on that either. So there is a need for a senior license increase. We've talked about it, and that's one of the ideas. But other than that, like I said, 25 to 45. Just so you know, your game license is proposed to go up 100%. Their bill on the floor, that one of the senators that wants to sponsor a bill for them, has a 100% game license increase. So your game license would double immediately, not 25%. The Fishboat app. I don't know if you've used Fishboat app, but Fishboat PA is our new app. It shows access, it shows fish, it shows stocking schedules, it shows a lot of stuff. If you've not been on it, I probably bring it up on here, but I don't want to do it before I finish. I didn't talk or bring, and I forgot to bring a copy of our new license button. If you haven't seen it, you should look for it. It is the skin of a brown trout. I can pass this around for you guys. The back of the button, instead of being pink or blue or any color, has the skin of a brown trout in it. It's very, very nice. Our button sales have gone from the first year of about 3,000 to about 35,000 this last year. So the first year was only 3,000 buttons sold. This last year, 2015, we sold about 38,000 buttons. So at $5, they're becoming a nice commodity that everybody wants. We're only making about 50 cents on every button. We're selling them for a cost because they're printed with your number on them, and they're actually a display type license for you. Okay? And I did cut that off, but I don't know how I did that. That growing green, well, that's actually growing greener. The governor's talking about growing greener 3. Growing greener, just so you know.
Sorry, back on the buttons.
Yeah.
Is that normally supposed to be a walk up to the counter and they have the button?
No, it is a mail to your house button. There's no cost for mailing. You simply buy it when you buy your license at any issuing agent or online when you buy your license, and it'll be delivered and dropped in the mail to your house from our production company that produces those. It'll be brought to your house within a week. Okay? As well as the Keystone Select badges and patches, and our newest thing coming forward is in March, the Fish and Boat Commission will celebrate its 150th anniversary. As an agency, we're the 3rd oldest agency in the United States on fishing and hunting. There are 2 other states that are only older than us. One is, I believe, Rhode Island, and I can't remember the other one, John said. Matt, do you remember the other one he said? Rhode Island was one, and I can't remember the other one. But we're the 3rd oldest agency in the United States. On a quick note, we are growing greener is the push of money into the water and subsidies for water and dams and all kinds of infrastructure and problems. Growing Greener 1 and 2 were very popular. Our agency was allowed to take money out of Growing Greener 2. I think in the neighborhood of about $32 million that over a 5-7 year period we received from Growing Greener 2 money. The problem with Growing Greener 3 is nobody knows how to fund it. They're definitely usually funded by taxes on businesses or other things like Marcellus or something. But there is some talk about a Growing Greener program, which really does help out agencies like us and DCNR, Game, and other agencies that are autonomous or semi-autonomous but have a lot of responsibility like state parks and stuff. So that's something else that's on the horizon. Who knows if it'll get funded. With that, that's our current steelhead map. It is available on our website. If you want to know better how to find those access points, use the AIS GIS, which is a global GPS system on the web. Link that page if you have a smartphone, link that page to your smartphone, and then you can drill right down in on it from the GIS map, and it'll walk you right in there on satellite views and terrain views. But that's it. I got nothing else more. I'm sure